In my study of US government and politics, my least favorite thing is interpreting the Declaration of Independence. Let me read you one line. In the course of human events, it becomes necessary to dissolve the political bands which connect us with one another, and to assume, by the powers of the earth, and a decent respect to the opinions of mankind, shall require that we shall declare the causes which impel us to separation. What does that even mean? 30 seconds of this speech just to say the United States is independent and let King George III down gently. In comparison to modern politics, we've seen how our language choices have evolved drastically. I mean, we've taken get to the point to a whole nother level. Take Donald Trump, for example, who is not really known for his flowery language. On 2 accounts, he has said, "We have the worst laws." And maybe wording the Declaration of Independence the way Trump would may have angered England. But as President Truman once said, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Now, politics aside, the way that we choose to present our ideas can have a plethora of ripple effects, especially when considering the euphemisms that we use on a daily basis. A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or phrase substituted for one considered to be too harsh. As a society, we revert to euphemistic language when our words are a little too hot to handle. But sometimes words should burn. So today, we will hold a lens up to our language choices by exploring how they reinforce stereotypes and perpetuate violence against marginalized communities. Then we will begin to understand how euphemisms are infiltrating public perception and policy. Before lastly, getting to the fire behind these words by learning how to combat the minimization of real-world problems by the way that we choose to speak. Because if I've learned anything from our current political climate, it's that we have to look at things from different perspectives, even if they make us a little uncomfortable. So let's start with a word that you might not know is used to conceal something a little more sinister, the word honor, with the euphemism honor killing, defined by Oxford Languages as, in certain cultures, the killing of a relative, especially a woman, who is perceived to have brought dishonor upon her family. Like, for example, in March of 2021 in Rajasthan, a father murders his 19-year-old daughter for eloping with her boyfriend of another caste, an act often deemed dishonorable and punishable in Indian culture. Now, by calling this death an honor killing, we are indirectly minimizing the very act of killing one's daughter by viewing the crime from the perspective of the killer rather than the victim, as we utilize the language of their excuses. Which begs the question, why do we call this an honor killing instead of just what it is, a murder? The answer has to do with Western culture's tendency to deflect in order to feel a sense of relief, which often ends up alienating certain groups of people. I mean, the very definition of the word starts with the phrase, in certain cultures. The Muslim World Journal of Human Rights finds that the term is solely used to describe situations of domestic violence against Muslim, Arab, and South Asian populations. As a society, we've used euphemistic language as a tool to separate the West from the rest. And we've perpetuated the stereotype that foreigners should be considered savages. But the idea that only foreigners would justify the very act of murder for the sake of cultural tradition is not as foreign of a concept as you might think. In fact, it happens right here. We just call it something different. So, America's own version of an honor killing is a crime of passion, a murder executed in the heat of a moment, suggesting that a murder committed in a fit of anger, jealousy, or rage should be considered other than a murder. The word has become increasingly popular in the United States for glamorizing the death of women, a phenomenon known as femicide. 40% of the homicides that occur in the United States are crimes of passion. 75% of them involve the use of a deadly weapon, and 80% of them are orchestrated by men. And yet, 100% of them are murder. Passion is not the same thing as anger or jealousy, and by construing it as such, we are victimizing a killer and normalizing death. In the end, there's a clear contrast between the euphemism honor killing, which otherizes people of color, and the euphemism a crime of passion, which lets white men off the hook. But to truly understand the impact that these words have on our society, we have to come face to face with the way that they are affecting public perception and policy. Now, our words have more power than we can even imagine. That's one of the many things that drew me to public speaking. The idea that young people can come together and create a change in the world with nothing but their voice. But it's easy to look past the negative effects that our words have on the world. Because euphemisms go beyond just impacting society, creating a deep systemic violence. They're impacting our laws. Under the United States criminal law, a crime of passion is classified as a manslaughter, not a murder, and therefore reduces its associated punishment. In Texas, for example, the average jail time for a premeditated murder is anywhere from 59 to 99 years. Whereas the average jail time for a crime of passion, a murder committed in a state of heightened emotion, is a minimum of 2 years, with a maximum of 20 years. Now, this reduction in punishment is significant when considering that these crimes are nowhere near less horrific or horrible as those occurring in foreign countries or premeditated crimes. In contrast, other countries have taken large strides towards protecting women against such violence. In 2018, Germany signed the Council of Europe's Istanbul Convention, the world's first legal document dedicated to preventing and combating violence against women, recognizing femicide as a structural issue in society. Now, this distinction between crimes against men and women may seem discriminatory on the surface. However, it is a legal necessity when considering that the average jail time for men who kill their romantic partners in a crime of passion is 2 to 6 years, whereas the average jail time for a woman who kills her romantic partner in a crime of passion is 15 years. I mean, the very society that tells us women that we can't be in positions of power because we are too emotional is the same society that is lenient on punishment given to men under the pretense that they are not accountable for their own emotions. A woman is too emotional until a man finds it inconvenient. And this is affecting public perception of a patriarchy. Studies from around the world find that men are 2 times as likely to agree with the reduction in punishment for honor killings and crimes of passion as women are. In the end, it is clear that we have to address this public perception, which starts with legislation. And ultimately, we can't change anything if we don't start with our language. So today, we've analyzed situations of horrific violence and gender-based norms. And through that, we've come to find how euphemisms are infiltrating our laws, desensitizing us to murder, and above all, we can now recognize when things that we consider to be foreign are much more local than we think. The only fix to this problem is by viewing each crime from the perspective of the victim, because they no longer can, and by becoming more critical consumers of the media. We must look past the media's best attempts to shield us from reality, and we have to understand the hypocrisies and the euphemisms in the things that we choose to consume. And by doing so, we will find that there is no honor in killing, and there is no passion in murder. There is only the blood of those who have died. And so for them, we cannot excuse crimes of passions in the United States. We cannot excuse the jealous husband who shot and killed his estranged wife on their front lawn, and we cannot excuse the husband who stabbed his wife in the chest 20 times with a military knife for speaking to another man on a night out. For Lacey Peterson, Faith Lindsay, Suzanne Morphew, Ayushi Chowdhury, and Noor Alamaki, we have to narrow our lenses and call things as they are. When I look back at texts like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, I realized I was guarded by the flowery words in them. But while those words may be appropriate in politics, they are not appropriate when dealing with criminals. So if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. Thank you.